Welcome to Real Talk with Reginald D. I'm your host, Reginald D. On today's episode, I have Lawrence Harris. Lawrence is a youth leadership and empowerment speaker, author, and coach. Welcome to the show, Lawrence.
Glad to meet you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Of course, fantastic to be here and ultimately know that this is going to impact somebody out there.
That's it, exactly. So, Lawrence, take us back to your childhood. Where did you grow up and what was life like?
Well, for the beginning of my childhood, it was pretty standard, mom and dad in the house, just running around doing little kid stuff like playing in dirt, trying to go catch bugs. It was all pretty normal. But as I got older, around the age of about 10, started noticing things like, arguments between my mom and my dad, which is, again, normal, but a kid shouldn't grow up seeing that because it has a lasting impact on them. Now, at 12 years old is when things get messy. I'm at my dad's house, and at this point in time, my mom and my dad are completely separate. He goes off, gets married to somebody else. My mom goes off, she lives her life. And I'm at my dad's house, sitting on this black couch. Now, my mom was calling my phone to wish my little sister a happy birthday. But normally my dad would make us leave our phones inside the car because he never gave us the reason why. He simply didn't want us speaking to our mom whilst at his house, which was actually owned by his wife, but that's a different story there. And his wife sees that my mom's calling and looks at him, and her exact words were, "Are you going to let him talk to her in my house?" My dad looks at me and gets this look of anger in his face. And boom, he just punches me in my left eye. And I thought it was just some sort of mistake, frustration. Maybe he didn't mean to. So I'm sitting there clutching my eye, and then he does it again. And at that moment, I realized that I was this 12-year-old little boy with all these hopes and ambitions and dreams for life. And then I feel this weight settle down on me that now I have to step up and make sure this doesn't happen to my younger siblings. Because my little sister is 9, my brother at this time is 5 years old, and my little brother is autistic and nonverbal. So he can communicate with you, but he cannot speak to you. So if something happens to him, you'll know something happened, but you won't know what because he can't tell you. And that leads me down a path of being absolutely terrified of everything. Because when you can't even trust your father, it's hard to trust anyone. Now, obviously, today I'm out of that, but people need to know about where you came from rather than just knowing where you are now and today.
Yeah, because one of the things you start facing when you're dealing with things like that is you start having, I call it internal battles,
Yes.
So what internal battles were you facing that others couldn't see?
A lot of them. There's a few highlights that I often talk about in my speeches and online is you start to think, especially as a child, you want to see your parents as good people. And the only way to do that is if you make yourself the bad guy. Even though he was the one who hit you, kicked you out the house, did all this stuff to you, you want to see him as a good person because he's your father. The only thing that allowed you to do that, though, is to say, it must all be my fault. It must be my fault that he decided he wanted to pin me against the couch. It must be my fault that he decided to kick me out when I was 13. It must all be my fault. And your mind will find evidence to make that true. Even if there's no real evidence there, your mind will start playing tricks on you and go, yeah, Lawrence, that must be right because he's a good person. He wouldn't do that to you. He's a good man. And then another one is the fact that I would absolutely be afraid of accepting help from people because to help me, you have to get close to me. And if you get close to me, it means you can hurt me. And when your parent is supposed to protect and love and support you, and they're the one that hurts you, it makes you see everyone as a bad apple because of one person. But if that one person was someone really close to you, you start to think if they could do it, anyone do it. And you'll be on a bus, because this is something that happened with me often. I'd be on a bus or in a public place, and I would genuinely believe that everyone here is out to get me. It's very paranoid, but in the moment, it makes sense because, again, when a child goes through something like that, it has lasting implications unless they get the help they need. And it's very hard to get it because you have to open yourself up to somebody. Thankfully, I did that. And, I'm here today. But I've seen so many young people who, whether they were people I coached, whether people who reached out to me personally, who they didn't do that. And it led them to ending up in prison. It led them to killing themselves. It led them to addictions because you want to feel better, you want help, but you refuse to open yourself up to get it. So those are some of the major ones I've dealt with.
So, Lawrence, at the age of 14, you made a powerful decision to stop letting your past define you. What triggered that shift in your mindset so early in your life?
Well, I describe it like this. Imagine you're taking a shower and it's really hot, but you have no skin. And everything in life is just hitting you one after another. And it feels as if nothing is going your way. And one thing my therapist told me was that you have to be honest with yourself. You have to just let it out. And I was looking in my bathroom mirror and I asked myself, why? Why did he treat me like that? Why did he kick me out? Why did he hurt my siblings? Why do I feel as if nothing I do is ever good enough? Why do I feel as if I'm not good enough as a person? And I'm just digging up all the things that I've been running from about myself, the thing that I was afraid to admit, the fear that nothing I do will ever be good enough. And I realized that I can either keep running from this pain, running from this fear, or I have to look it face in the face and work through it. And that process of working through it is where things like journaling came in, therapy sessions, talking to people about it, talking to myself about it, finding ways to handle it in a healthy way. That I was realizing that if I keep walking around with all this anger built up and all this anger bottled up, it's going to end up being taken out on somebody who it has nothing to do with. It's going to end up with me in prison. It's going to end up with me probably dead. It's going to end up with so many negative outcomes. So that decision to let it out, that decision to realize that what I went through doesn't have to define the rest of my life and that I'm not a prisoner to my past, it came because I was forced to make a decision. I had to start with the man in the mirror and just realize that if I don't let this out in a healthy way, it's going to end up very bad for me and everyone else involved. And I didn't want my sibling to grow up without a brother. I didn't want my mom to live the rest of her life without a son. I didn't want to give up on myself. So that's what really triggered it. I just was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, and that's one of the main things, one of the most important things I tell somebody is it comes a time in life, man, you got to make a decision. You got to make the decision. Just make sure you make
Yes.
the right one when it's all said and done. So 15 years old, you stepped into a leadership role by sharing your story publicly for the first time. What do you remember about that moment and how did it change you?
Well, let me take myself back to that mentally, because that first speech I gave was me speaking to a summer camp that I was a counselor at. And I was talking to them about just the beauty of being alive. It's so simple, but at the same time, it's one of the most beautiful things ever. Because these are little kids. I'm looking at them and some of them are 12, so they're right around my age. Some of them are 9. So my siblings' age. And I wanted them to just look around and see that life might not be ideal because they're going through their own stuff at home. Maybe they're going through similar situations like how I did. Maybe they're having arguments with their friends. Or it could have been as simple as their brother took their toy. But just understand that there's beauty in the fact the sun is shining and you have a bed to go home to and you got food on the table and you have running water. And by talking to them, it helped me realize that my voice has power, that I can share a message with somebody that inspires them and uplifts them. And that laid the foundation for what I do today.
That's awesome, man. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
That is awesome. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the youth today. What would you say, like many youth today are carrying trauma, feeling like they're invisible? What would you say to a young person listening right now who feels like they don't matter?
I would say the first thing is even if you don't believe it, say you love yourself in a mirror. Just make eye contact with yourself in a mirror and say you love yourself. Because that's what I would do every single day when I felt like I was invisible and like I didn't matter. Because eventually, what this does is it slowly but surely makes you start to believe it. And you're going to start taking little steps that prove you love yourself. It could be as simple as brushing your teeth every day. Start simple, start small. Show yourself that you matter, even if other people don't. Because if you get too focused on getting external love and external validation, whether that be from friends or relationships or partying. When you go back home and you're laying in your bed and it's nighttime, you look at the ceiling, the thing you need to do is remind yourself that you matter to you. It's not about all your friends. It's not about that girl in your class. It's not about the party or how other people see you. You have to start with seeing yourself that way. And some of the best ways to do this, like I mentioned, say it out loud. Say it like you mean it, even when you don't believe it. Because eventually you'll start to believe it. Journaling, write out how you feel. Understand that your emotions and your feelings and your thoughts are valid. Some sort of exercise routine, especially for men, this is helpful. When you work out, whether that be running, swimming, track, baseball, whatever you do, it actually creates hormones in your brain that make you feel good. That sense of feeling good, added on top of you looking better, adds on to a sense of self-worth. Like you'll look in the mirror and go, wow, my skin is clear now. My eyes are clear. I'm getting stronger. I've lost that, extra 20 pounds. I feel like I matter. And over time, you will believe that you matter. And once you get to that point, that's when it all clicks. So, wrap it up simply. Say you love yourself, show yourself that you love yourself, and eventually you will start to love yourself.
That's wise. That's real wise.
Thank you.
So, Lawrence, your story emphasizes that you can't rewrite the past, but you hold the pen to your future. How can someone begin to take the pen back?
The first step is just it's so it's so simple yet so complex at the same time. The way you take the pen back is by taking the pen back. Understand that the only reason why you feel that sense of losing control is mentally you gave your control away. When I was 12, I mentally gave my power away to this outside influence, which in this case would have been my dad. And because of my power being so far outside of me, it makes you feel isolated. It makes you feel as if you can do nothing about this. It makes you feel like there's no way out. All of my power is over here. So even though you cannot, let's just say you're in my situation, 12 years old, dad abusing you, even though, my mom and my dad can share custody, legally, you have to go with him because shared custody law, that's just messy, even though they knew, like the court knew what was going on. But because of the whole custody system, you gotta go. But First thing to do is mentally remind yourself, I am here. I matter. I'm strong. I'm lovable. I'm worthy. A lot of people might think it's a little silly, but those affirmations and saying positive things to yourself, that got me out of a dark place. Now, once you're saying this to yourself, you take little actions. You do what you can, where you are, with what you've got. If that means you just go for a walk and breathe, that's what you do. And over time, you'll have more ability to take more control back. If you're in a situation like mine, what I had to do was go out and get the court involved. And then I had to bring them video, photo, all this evidence to say, get us out of here, get me and my siblings out of here. And then I got us out of there, and now we're doing better. So the first step to reclaiming your personal power, it starts inside your mind. Okay? It's a mental game first. Then once you have the mental strength, you take the physical actions. And once you take those physical actions, you see the result that I can do something about this. I can stand up for myself. Now you're claiming that power back. I have the strength to imagine it. I have the strength to take an action, and I have the strength to get a result. So it's ironically simple, but the way to take the pen back and rewrite your story is mentally start rewriting the story.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, Lawrence, you've turned your pain into purpose as a coach, author, and speaker. What have been some of the most powerful transformations you've witnessed in others?
Well, the most powerful transformations I've witnessed in others. I had this friend who I'm not going to share their name because it's a bit of a personal story, and they have one of those names where it's very few people who have this name. I used to be friends with somebody. When I met them, they had recently gotten over a heroin addiction. The reasoning for that is they grew up, single parent. Their parent was also involved in drug dealing. Like they were a drug dealer for one of the gangs. And over time, they would tell me things like that they just wanted a way out. They just wanted a feeling of being loved because they didn't get it from either parent. They didn't get it from a community. They didn't get it from anybody. It's just they were feeling as if they were facing the crowd. And slowly but surely, through things like me talking to them on just why do you feel this? What can you do about this? What small action can you do to remind yourself that you are worthy? But it's not about how I make you feel. I don't want to be the reason why you feel good. I want to help you be the reason why you feel good. And with that, they went on to getting their first job, healthy relationships, better friendships, and ultimately living a life that they can actually be proud of and not continually repeat that cycle of staying in that community. Now, what ended up happening is one day I just suddenly never heard from them. I don't know what happened, haven't been able to find out, but for the time when we did know each other, I saw them grow a lot. I've had other friends where they've had transformations where they had the ambition to go and start their music career. None of them are like mega famous artists, nobody that you're going to see on a billboard. But I have a friend, his name is Daz. And what he'd like to do is he likes to make R&B rap kind of music. But not like a stereotypical rap music. He's more of like one of those conscious rap kind of people where he'll say something and you have to replay it 3 times to figure out what exactly he meant by it. Think of like KRS-One or Coach Contra, stuff like that. And the last one I'll say is my sister, my little sister Ajane. I've been able to help her to realize that she's lovable, that she does matter, that she's not just this little damsel in distress. Because keep in mind, when we were going through this stuff with our dad, I was 12 and she was 9. And the day it happened was October 13th, 2019, her birthday. So every time her birthday would come around, it's a actual flashback reminder. And that's something where Obviously I can't really speak from firsthand experience, because I'm not a woman, but what I've found is that especially when women go through something really bad like that with their father, it has a really hard impact on them where they don't know how to pick men because the person was there to set that example was hurting them. And even though they know it's not normal or good, it's familiar. So by helping her to love herself and realize that you matter, you're worth caring about. You're worth loving, not because of how you look, not because of what you can do for other people, but you're worth loving because you have intrinsic value as a human being. Man, it's such a beautiful reminder to come home and see her changed actions. Because it's not just about how we feel or what we think, it's about the actions behind it too.
So, Lawrence, I'm gonna ask you this, and let me get your take on this, because this is very important. I feel a lot of things could have been handled differently. A lot of outcomes could have been differently if we could realize this one question I'm about to ask you. So, what are some of the red flags parents, mentors, or teachers should look out for that a young person may be struggling internally, even if they appear okay?
They get too quiet. So think they get quiet. They start giving away things that matter to them, and they start to neglect their personal care. So the reasons for this are when people start struggling, especially in my kind of situation where you feel isolated, you feel like nobody cares, you feel like what's even the point? The first thing that starts to happen is you get quiet about it because nobody cares. So what's the point in telling them? Now, of course, there are people who are just introverted and they're shy and naturally they're like that. But when it's a changed behavior, like at one point, they're really talkative, they're outgoing, they're bubbly, and now they're quiet, reserved, and not acting the way they typically do, that's a huge red flag. The reason why giving stuff away that matter to them, when people start doing that, that's one of the first signs that they're intending on killing themselves because they want to just part with their stuff. It's not something people often talk about, but it's very common. When you look at it in retrospect and you start to think, why in the world did he give away his favorite guitar? Oh, now it makes sense. He wasn't even going to use it no more, so why not give it away? Or it could be shoes, it could be clothes. If they start giving away stuff that has deep sentimental value to them, not necessarily a huge red flag, but it can be. It's worth noting. And the third one, when it comes to neglecting hygiene, when everything feels like moving mountains, something as small as brushing your teeth can feel as if, because this is what would happen with me. I have to get out of bed. I have to walk to the bathroom. I have to turn on the light. I have to get my toothbrush, get the toothpaste, open the toothpaste, turn on the water, put the brush under the water, bring it to my face, move it to my mouth, scrub it back and forth, get the water in my mouth, spit it out. That's every step involved in brushing your teeth. And when you feel lost and you feel alone and you feel that weight on you, it feels like every step you're hiking up Mount Everest. So there's a lot of other red flags I can mention, but those are the three most common. And especially be mindful of things like major changes in habits. If there's major changes in their behavior, the way they talk, the places they go, the people they hang around, they suddenly break up with their girlfriend who they're deeply in love with, um, emotional outbursts, they begin hiding themselves, such as wearing overly baggy clothing. That is a fashion sense, but it also can be a subconscious attempt to hide yourself, to hide how you look, to hide yourself from the world, to kind of put yourself in this little cocoon and block everyone out. Um, it also can be used as a way of like hiding self-harm scars because if somebody's cutting their wrist or their legs, They'll wear really baggy clothes so nobody knows. Those would be the major things to keep an eye out on. Everything else really is more specific to behavior that is out of the norm, but only you would know it's out the norm because you're around the person consistently.
Right, exactly. Thank you for sharing that because seen so many times when a kid or young person has done something so detrimental, and then when it's all said and done, somebody will chime up and say, well, he was acting or she was acting weird for 6 months. And I'm like, well, God, why didn't
Yeah.
nobody try to figure it out, anything
Well,
like that. So, and then bad things happen, man, and it's
yeah,
unfortunate.
I think a part of it is that, well, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but you just chimed something right in my head. A part of it is that naturally people can feel hesitant to ask because, for one, that's a pretty sensitive question. Like, hey, what's going on at home? And then they actually tell you. Now you had to be ready to dig into that. Or they just simply say, no, I'm fine. I'm all right. I'm good. I'm just sad. I'm upset. Sometimes that is an attempt to just brush it off because what I would do is I would brush off my emotion. I'd be like, all right, I'm fine. I'm cool. And I'll just move on. I'm just having a bad day. But a lot of times it's not a bad day. It's that you feel as if you're burning up from the inside and nobody would ever understand it. So you don't even speak on it because you don't want to be seen as crazy or you don't want to be seen as a weirdo or you don't want people to start looking at you different. Because if once people start looking at you different, you're already going through all this mental stuff, and now they're looking at me different. That adds on to it. Let me just not talk about it and pretend I'm fine, knowing that I'm not.
Yes. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
So, Lawrence, what daily mindset habits do you personally use to stay grounded and aligned with your purpose today?
There's a there's a lot of them because for me, a big part of it is that I meant to mention this earlier, but when I was 13, I was clinically diagnosed with something called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Think of it like instead of the traditional sense where like the traditional idea of PTSD is the war flashback, where somebody pops a balloon near their grandpa's head and he jumps behind a couch because he thinks he's back in Vietnam. This is more so constant flashbacks, issue with emotional control, impulsivity, paranoia. Like it's a long list of things in case anybody wants to look into it. But it often develops from things like childhood trauma, long-term abuse, long-term issues. And it's one of those things where once it develops, you kind of just have to learn to integrate it and you can get better from it, because I sure have, but it's always there. And the ways I deal with this, both that have helped me as well as have helped countless other people, journaling, exercise, and get a hobby that gets you outside. Because we often stay inside, we often sit at our desk, we often are in schools or we're at home or on a bus or in a car. We're so physically isolated from the outside world. So things like fishing, I absolutely love it. Gardening, going for a walk in the park, walking your dog, skateboarding. I'm just listing things off that anybody can apply to their life because one of the things about sunlight is it creates vitamin D. And if you don't get enough vitamin D, it's been shown to create things like you get sad, you have lack of energy, skin issues, hair issues. It just not having sunlight is really bad for you. We're meant to get a lot of that, but we're isolated and physically boxed in. Socialize with people, not behind a screen, not on your phone, not online, face to face, in person interaction. You need it. Go outside and tell somebody hi. I like your shoes. Where did you get them? This is a thing I do every day. I meet a new person. And every day you meet a new person, you never know what that can turn into. New friendships, business opportunities, relationships, or you just feel good. So the best practices for anyone listening, journaling. It helps you get your emotions out, helps you get your thoughts out. And after a year, you can look back and say, on this specific day, what was I thinking? How did I feel? What was going on in my life? Exercise. It can be any form you want as long as you're getting your body moving. It creates hormones in your brain that make you feel good. And get outside. You need sunlight. Get some hobbies. Make some friends. Stop being so physically alone. Because once you're alone, you're easy to take out.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Lawrence, you also speak on transformation. In one sentence, what is your definition of transformation?
Mm, I've never had somebody ask me that question before. That's a good one. I would say, in one sentence, my definition of transformation is, as cliche as this sounds, going from rags to riches, but not necessarily money related. So think of rags to riches as in I was that 12-year-old who felt like nobody cared about him, nobody wanted to hear what he had to say, nobody just valued me for me. That's the rags. But the transformation and the riches is now I go up on stages and I pour my heart out there. I've had people message me things like, man, this video changed my life. You helped me to quit this addiction. You helped me to love myself more. I'm more confident. I got in the gym because of you. I started journaling. My relationship with my parents is better because of you. Um, I got my first girlfriend. I graduated high school. It's not even just about the money aspect. It's about the every day I have people messaging me things like that. Yeah, there's haters too. There's haters. It comes with the territory, but the transformation is I went from somebody who felt like nothing to somebody who has changed people's lives. People who I've never met face to face. People who have never even bought my products before. The transformation I'm giving people, that's just the free stuff. The people who have actually paid me and read my books and been coached by me and mentored or met me in person, they will tell you that even when I can be a bit hard on them, I do it because I love you. I know what you're capable of, even though you might not see it right now. I know what's on your horizon, and I know how I'm going to help you to get there. So,
That's
yeah,
good. You hit it right on the head because
thank you.
when it's all said and done, man, the transformation is the people who change because of you and what you've done. You know,
Yes.
that's it. That's it. So let's keep talking about that. For the listeners who's ready to reclaim their story, but doesn't know how to begin, what's one of the first steps that they should take?
I'd say the first thing is either figure out what do you want or figure out what you don't want. And from there, you can start to figure out more of a game plan. So when I was 12, obviously, what I did not want is to keep feeling like this. Now you figure out, okay, what do I want? I want to feel better. I want to be happy. I want to trust other people. I want to love myself. Now you know what you don't want. You know what you do want. How do we get there? That's where the game plan comes in. Such as, like you mentioned, a listener who they don't know how to claim back their personal power. What do you not want? To feel controlled by other people, to feel unlovable, to feel unworthy. Now, how do you get to reclaiming my power, loving myself, feeling as if I matter in this world? You figure out what are some habits you can do because over time, your habits actually rewire your brain. This is what I had to learn with, reclaiming myself. By changing your actions, you actually rewire your brain. It's it's kind of like a wet computer. It's easier to describe your brain as a wet computer than an organ. So just make a plan, make a picture in your head. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? So it's one of those things where the more specific we can get, the better you can get at reclaiming that power. Because everyone might look different. Maybe you just want to get a job. That's a very straightforward path. Application, well, write a resume, find a job, submit application, rinse and repeat until somebody says yes. That's a pretty straightforward path there. But with things like reclaiming personal power of your identity, self-love, self-worth, that's where you have to just find what worked for you. Try stuff out. Read books on it. Go to YouTube videos. You can go to my channel. I make, I think, like 300 videos at this point on it. Just take action. And now with things like ChatGPT, if you try to explain it to a person and they don't understand what you mean, type it in a ChatGPT, and over time, it'll help you to clarify this. Like, I feel like everything I'm doing isn't working. I feel lost. I feel confused. Why do you feel that? I feel that because I'm not sure. Well, do you think it could be this, or this? Oh, yeah, it's the third one. Oh, okay. So when did you start feeling like that? And before you know, within 10 minutes, the thing has figured out what exactly you need to do.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's literally a supercomputer.
I like that. I like that. So, Lawrence, how old are you, man?
I'm 19.
You're
I started
19.
this I started speaking when I was 15. So oftentimes people are like, man, how'd you do it so young? Well, when I mentioned earlier about knowing what you do and what you don't want and what you do want, that goes into how people are either fueled by running toward the life that they want or running away from what they don't. I'm running from what I don't want. And it's like I have a lion behind my back at all times and it's chasing me. Do you realize how fast you'd run if there was a lion behind you? And it's not a fear per se. It's more that I'm just not going back to who I used to be. I'm just not going back to that.
Right, right.
And
That's not it.
that's when the YouTube videos came out, and then I started uploading my shorts content, and then I started writing blogs on my website and doing all this stuff. But the entire transformation so far is 7 years. If you become obsessed with something for 7 years, you'll make a lot of progress. Then you have things like YouTube, books, the internet. The information's out there. And I am an avid learner of it. So,
Yeah,
started young, been at it a long time though.
that's awesome. So let me ask you this, Lawrence. So how does your father feel about you now?
Oh, I haven't spoken to him in, I don't know, like 2-3 years. So I have
Okay.
no clue. I
Okay.
have no clue.
Sometimes that's the best, right?
Yeah, it's there are people who what they can do is reconcile and talk about it and move forward, and maybe he was going through his own personal stuff. I asked him years ago, for multiple years actually, never got a reason, and never saw any change in behavior, nothing. So you just have to remove people, places, and things. And sometimes the people is the people who hurt you. Very straightforward, but easier said than done. Sometimes the places could be his house. Easier said than done, but straightforward process. But that also might mean you need to cut off people who are affiliated with him. I've cut off maybe like 30, 40 family members by the time I was 14 and haven't spoken to any of them since because I know what comes with that. So I'm pretty darn sure somewhere along the line, people have, been watching my Instagram and maybe his family members sent him a clip of one of mine and they're like, Lawrence is talking about you. And I'm like, well, it ain't character defamation if I got proof that it actually happened. And I'm not out here using his legal name. Character defamation. Sorry about that. My office has like automatic lights. Character defamation is if you're saying blatant lies on people.
Right.
I'm not. So I don't know how he feels about me. Never found out, never asked, and I have no plans to find out.
Gotcha. Because here's the thing. This is going to my next question. Because it's your legacy now. You got 19 years old, man. You got a lot of road ahead of you. So
Yep.
what legacy do you hope your voice and work will leave behind?
Helping people to realize that they matter and that they are lovable, not for what they do, not for what they have, not for what they give to other people, but because they themselves are worthy, not entitled, worthy of love and appreciation. Because, especially for young people, think about how social media just pushes this agenda of if you're not 6 foot tall and you don't make $1 million a month and you don't drive a Bugatti, you a bum. Or if you don't got a 2-inch waist and you got this exact body type and you this amount of curvy, don't no man want you. And then all the clips of men and women arguing and bad relationships, and it really leads people to think that if they don't have this external stuff, that they don't matter. Where what I say is, yeah, go ahead, get the external stuff. I love nice things too. I love suits and nice cars, and I love that. But you got to love yourself before you have all that. Fall in love with the person and the mission rather than the stuff. Because if you get too focused on, I gotta have this relationship, I need this man in my life, I need this woman in my life, I need this car, I need this Balenciaga belt, or this Gucci, or this Rolex, you're going to go down a cycle of just chasing materialism rather than chasing just being here and present and loving you for you. Not for the stuff. Love yourself because you matter. And ultimately, with that, I just want to help people not end up how I was. Because you'd be surprised how many kids just don't talk about it. It's one of those things where you're kind of taught to. That's family business. That stays in the family. And in coaching people, even though I don't really coach much as of now, I do more so consultation calls. But in the time I was, doing one-on-one coaching for months at a time, what I realized is it's so unfortunate how common things I've gone through and things like sexual violence against girls. It is ridiculously common. And I just want people to know that no matter what you go through, no matter what happened, no matter what somebody did to you, no matter what mistake you made, because I've made plenty. I've hurt people, I've offended people, I said things I shouldn't have, I've done things I shouldn't have. I'm not perfect whatsoever. But that doesn't mean that you're broken or you're flawed. You just are human. Nobody is perfect. Everybody did something, said something, hurt somebody. Everybody has. But love yourself not for this idealized image, but just for who you are. That's the legacy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well put. Well put. So lastly, Lawrence, how can my listeners book you as a speaker, purchase your book, or connect with you on social media?
Well, or as booking me as a speaker, you can email me at lawrence@lawrencecharris.com, which is also my website, lawrencecharris.com. Social media, Lawrence C. Empowers. If you literally Google my name, Lawrence C. Harris, it all pops up. I did that on purpose. Makes me very, very, very easy to get in contact with. far as my books, Amazon.com. You can get them there. I've also recently made an audiobook where my most recent book, let me actually get out my desk. It's Power to the People. I wrote this book when I was 18 years old whilst working at a McDonald's. It's ironic that the guy working at McDonald's dropping fries is making a book on mental transformation. But the things I taught in this book are now what has allowed me at 19 to have my own office space, be a speaker, and in 3 days from now, I'm going to the Poconos to speak at a conference to about 100 people, gotten in the best shape of my life, have transformed so many little habits. The people around me are genuine, loving people. I look in the mirror proud of myself, all based off the stuff I taught in this book. Now, the audiobook version of it, you can get that at my website, lawrencecharris.com. In it, after every chapter, I give an updated speech on it. So the audiobook gives you everything in that book that has led me to where I am now, plus the advice that I have now that I didn't when I wrote the book. So
That's amazing.
feel free to get in contact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there you have it, Lawrence C. Harris. Lawrence, thank you so much, man, to take the time out of your busy schedule to hang out with me for a minute.
Of course, I loved it. And just a final thing I want to leave listeners with is that know who you are without the world trying to tell you who to be. Because everybody has an opinion of you, but not everyone's opinion matters. Today I actually had a guy like leave a comment on one of my posts asking how much does it cost to slap you. The post was about the fact that when you be authentic, there are going to be people who judge you for it. And that just showed me that you have to know who you are, even when the haters got opinions, because everyone's going to say something. But what do you say about yourself? Just love yourself. That's really the key takeaway.
That's it. So, Lawrence, I appreciate you, man. I wish you well in your journeys, man. I like you, man. You got a long road ahead of you, man, with your purpose, because you started young, and that's the key, man. You'll only get better and wiser as you go, and more phenomenal, and end up all over the world and all the stuff.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate you stopping by today.
Of course. Have a blessed one.
Yes, sir. Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk with Reginald D. If you enjoyed listening to Real Talk with Reginald D, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. See you next time.